check, 4 minutes past 8 a.m. You're still on Friday's edition of Morning at NTV. And the good news is that November is coming to an end. But this November has bred some good news, especially in the music industry. And this morning in our Kickstarter, we're looking at what Uganda's first Grammy nomination means to the music industry. My name is Priscilla Regina Naloga. Welcome. Now, Uganda's entertainment industry, particularly music sector, burst in tremendous news, signaling a ray of hope in propelling of Uganda's music beyond border. And by border, we're not only talking about East Africa, but Africa and Europe, and now the entire world pretty much so. When Eddie Kenzo was ignited with a nomination in the Grammys, becoming the first Ugandan to be nominated for the prestigious awards for Best Global Music Performance. And guess what? In this category, there are significant names like Burna Boy. Now, that is some stiff competition for you to come down to be among the nominations in a category that has Burna Boy. Now, this will be the 65th annual Grammy Awards. It's going to be happening in February next year in LA. And we do have Emma Carlos, who is a music business consultant and an arts administrator, as well as Andrew Kagwa, artist journalist, here to give us a picture of what this news and so many other artists that are representing Uganda on the global market are trying to do, and what they're doing is propelling the rest of the industry. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I will start with you, Carlos. Thank you so much for being here. You are known as the godfather.
Godson, where do you put people like Ragadi and the rest? But I'm honored to be here. It's my first time. I'm very happy for NTV for recognizing. 18 years. This is my first program on the morning show.
Okay.
It means a lot.
Yes, it does.
I know someone recommended me here.
Okay.
Should I introduce myself?
Oh, yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, my name is Emmanuel Mlondo, also known as Emma Carlos. I'm a graduate. I did a bachelor's in education year 2003. I'm very passionate about the arts. And right now I've managed artists for the last 18 years, platinum and award-winning artists. And right now I'm into consultancy with the entertainment generally, arts administration and content creation, and I'm very proud to be here. Okay,
and we're proud to have you here submit your views on this conversation. But before we go deep into the conversation, earlier on in the morning, there was a fire that gutted Chibuye next to the market, and we do have our reporters, Galiwango, on ground to give us and bring us up to speed on the management of that fire. Good morning to you. All right, so what you see on your screen there are the pictures of the fire, and you can see a heavy smoke, which shows you how serious that fire was, because we were coming in from Entebbe Road, and you could see that fire blaze all the way from Stella, which would be Najanankumbi, and now you can see that's the impact of that area code. It's the place below the Zing Zing Furniture House in Ndeva, where there's also a lot of woodwork that happens there, so you can imagine the extent of fire. If you just have that as the smoke that is coming through after the fire brigade there that you are seeing having taken Those of you that know Chibuye Market, through Masaka Road, which is the area code of Ndeva, and then the road that connects to the Ring Road, where you do have Zing Zing Furniture. So between Zing Zing Furniture and Masaka Road on this side, that area that has the market, which is enclosed in between there, that is where the fire has gotten. What you see there is the fire brigade trying to clear the last parts of the fire. That heavy smoke shows you how heavy that fire was, because it had created a cloud of smoke earlier on in the wee hours of the morning between 6 and 7 a.m. While we were passing, it had created a cloud of smoke. For those of you that use Entebbe Road, Najana Nkumbi, you're coming in and you're using Masaka Road through Ndeva to connect to the Chibuye roundabout, you might have to find alternatives, because that definitely has affected the flow of traffic around the Chibuye roundabout. Also, people coming in from Machindya, perhaps you might want to consider using Zambia, then connect to the heart of the city into Queensway, or even use Ginger Road and then come back into the heart of the city because of that traffic disruption. Taxis and border borders and even private cars coming in from the areas of Natete, Busega, and you wanted to access the city through Chibuye. Right now, because of what you're seeing on the screens right now, that traffic is going to be affected. So the solutions would be either you go through Popopol, then you'll be able to enter Kampala through Rubaga, Namirembe Road, or if you are closer, you can go through Rubaga Road and you can connect to the Ring Road, the Kabaka Ring Road, and be able to then go back to Rubaga Road and still connect through Namirembe or Chisenyi for that matter. As you can, people that know Ndeva, it has a lot of woodwork, wood factories and shops, and so what you see there is pictures of wood ash that actually harbors a lot of fire when such incidences happen. But we do have the fire brigade on ground waiting on the police to give us a report on what exactly sparked off this fire. And it's disturbing because earlier on in the course of the week, we started off this week with a fire that gutted a home in Machinye division, and it killed the entire family of 5. So this is the second fire that we're officially reporting on in just 5 days. That is definitely raising a lot of eyebrows. Returning back to studio. Yes, returning back to studio, we get to look at our Kickstarter conversation. What Uganda's first Grammy nomination means to the music industry. Now, just looking at scope on page 23, you do have a very interesting title here, Eddie Kenzo to the World. Kenzo became the first East African artist to win the Black Entertainment Television, which is the BET Awards, back in 2015, after taking the Viewer's Choice Best New International Artist accolade at a function held in LA in the US. And he's also the recipient of the Best African Entertainer Award at the 36th edition of the International Reggae and World Music Awards in Miami and the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards. The man has scooped a number of awards internationally. And I'll start with you said, okay, godson. Godson of music, Carlos. When you received this news, what did it mean to you? For one who has actually, done some work with Eddie Kenzo in his earlier journey in music.
Actually, I didn't work with Eddie Kenzo, but I saw his hustle from day one. We used to hang out a lot together at Dream Studios. That's where his career started, seemingly. However, I would like to start by a few definitions. Before we came on air with Andrew, we said that we are facing a dilemma in the sector in terms of classification and definition. Let me just use a few minutes to define the sector. Well, the music industry consists of individuals and organizations that earn money through creations of use of the mind to create intellectual property in terms of audio and audiovisual. And these people include songwriters, producers, managers, record label owners. And then the process involves songwriting, the studio production, promotion and publicity, and then distribution. So that's category of the music industry. And it's a subset of a bigger sector known as the culture and creative industry. It's one of the biggest. Then on the other hand, the Grammys are a business wing that awards achievements in composition and music. It's a part of a bigger group known as the Recording Academy. It's a composition of still in America, producers, songwriters, composers, authors, record label owners, and executives. So if you look at the definition of the music industry and then the Grammys, what the Grammys are, when we got this announcement, in my view, I was very, very excited because as a sector, we have gotten an opportunity to elevate ourselves. The brand or the nominee has been elevated in this category, but as a sector as a whole, we have achieved, I was able to identify like 5 aspects or advantages or benefits or opportunities that we're going to get out of this nomination. The first one, an opportunity to position our sector as a whole and individual practitioners. Right now, all eyes are on what? On Uganda. So we've gotten an opportunity as a sector to position ourselves on that ground. Then two, an opportunity to network. This can start through collaboration, initiating contacts, and working relationships right away on the net. The nomination has softened the what? The process. Now the process is very softened. An opportunity to compare notes and borrow best practices across the entire value chain. When I talk about the entire value chain, I mean from production, how are we doing it, promotion and publicity, how are we doing it, distribution, and then the parameters can be professionalism, production, digitalization, and financial literacy. I happened to be in a meeting 2 days ago that was under Ministry of Gender that was validating the mapping, culture and creative mapping across the world. Do you know that 60% of all our practitioners are not on the digital space? I can give you an example. We celebrated recently, Andrew, a culture week at UNCC, National Culture Center. Part of the cultural groups or troops that performed from up country don't even have a basic
email address.
Are not on social media, a simple website. So these are things that we have to compare notes from other countries like Nigeria. We have gotten a lot of opportunity now to compare notes on those parameters. Then the fourth one is in the nomination and the nominee, we now have an industry. We now as an industry have got direct link and channel to communicate. It's now going to be easier to submit works in the music. Submit works in what? In the Grammys. Music is about contacts. Now we have an opportunity to ask Kenzo or Matt Beats how best we can submit. It's an opportunity for, you see, our music industry is categorized into 3. You know, there's a bunch of the 80s, early 90s to 2000, the kinds of Mzee Sebata, the late Kafelos, Eri Wamala, Wile Mukabya, and then there's that bunch from early 2000, 2015, the likes of Ragadi, Chameleon, Juliana. Now I'm talking about those ones have time to refocus now. Then there's an opportunity for the new generation, that's 2015, the likes of Fikfa Maker, Waiki Benda, Mudra, Karoka Sita, B2C, to focus and focus on music as a business. Yeah. This is an opportunity for them to give them confidence and hope that they can make it. In my recommendation for this team, the class of 2015 to date, is to have team. Right now you need to have a business manager, you need to have a digital manager, and you need to hire a lawyer on a retainer basis. And
it's something that Andrew and I have.
That's it. So then lastly, on the last point is that we have now gotten even confidence, a mixture of confidence and hope that the sector is getting to rightful place. These are things in advocacy and lobbying that we're telling government that we need to package this sector, identify it from the crowd that, you know, government had put us in community development, had put us in hospitality and tourism, but for Christ's sake, universally we are called the culture and creative industries, and they are mega boost. And actually one of the biggest mission or vision for the Grammys or the Recording Academy is to elevate music way above oil, way above tourism, way above agriculture, way above any other sector. Okay. Thank you very much.
Don't touch the oil. In Uganda, for now, the oil. The oil,
Actually, yesterday, Private Sector Foundation, which is the apex body for all private practitioners, they are going to prioritize agriculture, gas and oil, ICT, manufacturing, and then arts in that order.
Which shows you that we are far back, because that also will speak into the budgeting and percentages that will be coming through, which will not be aiding what you have put down as the opportunities that have presented ourselves with this nomination. But according to you, Andrew, and of course I know that the heavy interaction you have with this artist, and you have been able to ask and find out exactly how he has been able to set himself up for global recognition.
Okay, it's a very funny story that at times you might think it's not even true.
True, yeah,
but I think when Eddie Kenzo, okay, there was a time I criticized him and he couldn't talk to me anymore. But he always talked about a Grammy, and it was very laughable. And there is something he usually says that if people do not laugh about your dreams, they are not big enough. Like he used to talk about a Grammy, he had a Grammy screensaver, and like it was very laughable. You're thinking like,
surely, if they show you my screensaver,
but
you're supposed to laugh at me.
But what I've learned from experience, Andrew, I've learned from experience,
yes,
that what the mind can
perceive,
can achieve.
Yes.
Before I managed Dream Girls and Wafagio, I always used to fancy TLC and Destiny's Child, and then local I used to fancy Steve Jean and what? And
the Blue Threes.
And then I said, one day, one time, I'll put up the best girl groups, and I did it.
Okay, all right.
So like he really wanted a Grammy, and of course last year he managed to attend the event, took pictures at the event, and people were like, yeah, that's all you can do. And then he shocks us. But of course, one thing you need to learn about Kenzo is that even before the BET came, like there is a way he has been trying to position himself. True. And he grabs the moment when he has to grab it. And
there was that moment, the New York time, the New York Square,
yes.
And it was Eddie Kenzo. All the screens were showing Eddie Kenzo.
Actually,
that is a powerful strategy.
That was towards the release of his album. Made in Africa.
Made in Africa.
It was towards the release of his album, and when you when you look at that album, how he chose the collaborations, the songs he covered, because he covered Kanda Bongo Man in there, and then he had a song with Monique Seka in there. Like these are quite calculated songs, calculated moves with African great artists. This nomination was very unprecedented. Trust me, like there is no way I can sit anywhere and say I expected this to come this soon. Maybe I probably didn't even expect Eddie Kenzo to be that Ugandan artist to get a Grammy nomination. Probably I thought it would be an artist that is not even based in Uganda, but they are Ugandans. Okay. Because at times that's how it works, because the Grammys at times come down to how connected someone, actually most of the times they come down to how connected you are. Yeah. So this was a master stroke. It shocked me, but yeah, we're still happy.
Carlos, you mentioned something, and you said that the class of 2015 to date has present opportunities that allow them to easily then tap into the vast markets out there globally. Sure. But then it caused me to reflect on regions like West Africa. Maybe best example would be Congo-Brazzaville, whose music traversed boundaries and continents at a time where there was no internet, there was no compact discs really. I think it was the closest to movement of music was tape at that time. But their music spread across Africa and across Europe at that time. So we cannot really sit here and say that it's the benefits of present day development and advancement that we should see as an opportunity for Uganda to tap into the music. What has West Africa done to continuously be among the nominees of such awards internationally?
First of all, as West Africa, a tricky question. Anyway, let's use Kenzo as example and his practices, and then let's look at also West Africa. In West Africa, the whole ecosystem, the business community, the government, and the practitioners have recognized music as the arts in its totality as what? As a business. The government has put legal frameworks and policies that support the system. Right. The practitioners have been intentional. the business community, the Kwagalanas of those are the Dangotes, are heavily investing too because they guaranteed returns to investment. So they look at all opportunities across the entire globe. Now, if you look at Kenzo, I had an argument with Kagwa before he came in here. I told him Kenzo has been intentional because we are all surprised on this nomination. Kenzo has been intentional. How? As a person who has practiced, who has been interacting with artists for the last 18 years, there's this tendency in Ugandan artists that they will look for me. I will be this side, I'll do my art, but Kenzo has been strategic. It's not a sign of weakness to wake up in the morning and you be intentional about getting a Grammy nomination, and you do produce it and exhaust all opportunities to get that nomination. It's not crime. I mean, you're working to get what? To get there. But the tendency about our artists is that they say, I'll do my art and people will come and book for me. You know, I also book artists as a side hustle on behalf of clients. But umimba solo gamantino anze man emabajja kunkubira. No. Bankubire. You can solicit for that booking. It's part of business. Tell them, hey, MTN, I've done this, I'm Mudra, and this is my red card. If you have business, call me. Katio maybe one allow it's a sign of weakness. But Kenzo has been intentional. And congratulations to him. So that's my submission on Eddie Kenzo as a sample space, and then the entire Nigerian music industry. I don't want to talk about the Congolese. Congolese music came here because in the early 90s we had a boom of media and we didn't have content. So the content that was available in South Africa and Congo, because they had migrated so much into France, so that it was a conception that okuba music wa weru chikola. So that's how the Congolese nekatwaba taking the over. Recently, Private Sector Foundation and Jaja Ragadiwe in Congo on the Congolese summit in Boma, bakolabo. Apart from those who are established in where? In France. They were on ground.
Titi. Okay, you are itching to make a submission.
Okay, one thing, I think most of the times it's a wrong perception to compare the East African, most of the Anglophone East African with West Africa. One, Nigeria has been going to the West before Uganda got independence. I think by the 70s, international artists were coming to see Fela Kuti in Nigeria. Like, they were coming to the shrine to see Nigeria. So Nigeria has been culturally vibrant for all these years. And then when you look at the Francophone West Africa, which the Cameroon, Senegal, or even the Francophone Africa, like the DRC, Sierra Leone, I don't know, the way we were colonized was different. The British kind of tried to turn us into English.
Into tea drinkers.
Into tea drinkers. And the French kind of did not want to impose themselves on people, so they let creativity thrive.
They have a laissez-faire.
And then there was that whole thing where it was so easy for a Francophone African to actually go to France to make music. So, in fact, even in football, that's one of the reasons why you have a very big number of Africans playing for France. So, very many people easily got signed, and the way record labels were pushing music kind of made it easy for the music to come back to us in Africa. So, that's why it was very easy for them to kind of start getting Grammys in the 90s, get nomination as early as the 90s, because the way they were colonized was a way that kind of empowered them in future. And for us, it was a whole way different. Like, do you know how hard it is for a Ugandan artist to go to the UK? When you're an artist, like, it's so hard.
It's so hard.
But it's not the same. Like, okay, just a simplest example even. Do you notice that it is like the Air France still goes to DRC even with their... It's not a very good looking airport, trust me. And the British Airways no longer comes to Uganda.
British Airways.
It didn't come to Uganda. But literally, Air France still goes to each and every Francophone country. So
Okay, all right. Still in scoop, cover story, other names giving Ugandan music a global moment. You do have Giovanni Chiyindi, who has traveled more than 10 countries doing his music training and performance. You do have Molondo. You do have a couple of others here that have been talked about. How about Chinobe, aka Chinobe? You do have Bernard Katende, DJ Benazo. You do have Geoffrey Oriema, who took a trolley to France, and a couple of others that have been able to then expand the music that we have here in Uganda. And what has surprised some people about such music, and especially Kenzo's present day nomination, is the fact that his music is, it is not the chidandari that people will pay their 20K to go for.
That's the power. That's the power of Kenzo. Actually, that's where his power lies.
It is not. It's not the one that like really hits you and stays with you. There's something about his music that is different. It's peculiar. It's not so attractive, but yet again, it has gotten him continuous global recognition. How do you interpret that?
My view on that has always been that there's classification in our music industry, that we have diaspora artists, then we have local artists, then within the local artists we have the contemporary artists, these ones that are like Giovanni Chiyinji, Chiwanuka, then we have, they call them world artists, Maurice Kiria. So
world music.
The general feel within the practitioners and the fans is that people like Maurice Kiria, people like Lilian Mbabazi, people like Wales, Suzanne Keroni, other people are supposed to go in the Grammys. Now, then we have people like Navia supposed to go for it, BAT. Then we have Kenzo coming up here. I was at an interview and they asked me to describe what makes Kenzo so tick. I also one time asked him, but from my personal analysis, I discovered that Kenzo's strength is in his creation and composition. Take for instance,
which he does himself.
If he does himself. Take for instance a song like Semyokozo. Simple. Then I reflected back in songs that were global, got a global appeal. Rice and Peas. 2 words, rice and peas. Then the other one which was pineapple. So Kenzo's creation, the power lies in those creations. Then 2 is never giving up attitude. He has that story of from grass to grace. So so that's the best way I can explain this whole Kenzo Grammy Award nomination vis-a-vis people we are perceived that are supposed to get the nomination.
All right, I hope that you are taking notes because what they're sharing here can be adopted into any sphere and industry or sector that you are in. It's not limited to music. If you have the determination, if you're willing to stretch yourself out there and present yourself out there, you good your service, these tips definitely can aid you in making and propelling that leap that you've been looking for. We're going to be taking a short breather. We'll return shortly.
Okay.
Watching Morning at NTV.
Okay, so the debate right now between Carlos, Andrew and myself is what is it going to take for Uganda to have its own recognition and powerhouses, not just for Uganda, East Africa and across Africa. Once upon a time, we had a mega huge awards. Humongous thing that I was in primary school, but I would have to wait for the newspapers to see who won Palm Awards. Carlos. Palm Awards was your mecca, and it definitely was one of those things that was well respected across the bar in recognition of music. But as we speak today, it fell into the sand, and it has definitely caused a setback for so many artists' appreciation, recognition, and nomination in the times that it's not been present.
Oh, God. Palm Awards, first of all, I would like to recognize Isaac Mlindwa. I just left campus. He gave me an opportunity to, to explore the creative side of me, and also started my career. Palm Awards 2003. Now, Palm Awards was one of the biggest events and respected. I'll say this on record because we don't have time. To organize awards to the magnitude of, let me say, the Grammys on international scale and then nationally, the Palm Awards, you need the budget. Not less than 1.5 billion right now.
Billion.
There's no corporate company right now that can put Palm Awards and measure their returns to investment or the media value equivalent. So it's only government or we as stakeholders create ourselves and then, I don't know, get a development partner to run it like the Grammys. How can we amongst ourselves? How can we amongst ourselves raise?
But let me paint for you the pictures, Andrew. You come in. That if, for example, if you were to get money from the government, for example, it puts away 3 billion in the financial year, each financial year for just music, arts, and culture. That's not enough to cater to everyone. Number one. Two, the way government works is that it's not going to give you the whole lump sum at once. It's going to disperse it quarterly. And again, depends on the priorities of the government for you to even
of course, you cannot be sure they are going to stay committed to this
to the process.
Yes, and they also need returns on investment. Meanwhile, while we're having these conversations, so Andrew.
So personally, I think one, the industry can do this by themselves. Like we are dealing with a multi-billion industry
sector. True.
It's an industry that can make a lot of money, but it all comes down to how we organize it to actually recognize that this money is there, which is usually the biggest issue I'm having with UPRS, because I feel like they are not creating enough money streams, yet the money streams do exist. I feel like media houses are paying way too little for using content. I feel like hotels are paying too little. No one is charging funds when they are coming in. No one is putting a levy on them.
Before I forget on that, there's a technical, we've been singing copyright. Yeah. Government has listened. Yeah. For once, government has listened. True. Then in the few of the amendments that are going to help collecting societies and UPRS, we're advocating for inclusion of PCL. Okay. We're advocating, because the law hasn't been supporting CMOs to collect, but the law now is going to be helping CMOs. CRBTs, we want it to be a matter of legislation, the revenue sharing module, and then we're also looking at an independent organ to strictly manage copyright, because according to Bank of Uganda statistics, there's we're at about 300 billion in uncollected royalties. Those are things we're talking about: the hotels, the restaurants, the salons, the cars, the PCL, everything. So these are the justification we are using to amend amend the copyright. And I would like to thank Hildeman, Honorable Hilary Chiyaga, for moving that private members bill. And he actually said he will remit the Mukuru just because of copyright.
Can you imagine? So it's paying off to have musicians in parliament. Okay,
so like I was saying, like I feel like if we actually exploit all the streams,
the avenues, true,
we can actually collect enough money and
set off a budget.
We can set off a budget to do this. Like we can actually do it without government.
Because ironically, if we are saying Grammys, this is the 36th edition that they're having.
No,
65th. 65th edition that they're having. That means that they have done something that continuously supports their budget to hold this, and it's even bigger and better every other time they do it. And they have the ability now to expand and attract attention to more artists, that focus to more artists. And so that goes back to the challenge in the industry presently, and I'll go back to you, Carlos. In the industry presently, where you do have divisions, where you do have UMA, who is divided,
yeah, true.
They're supposed to
You're
be
very, very right. Very, very right.
It's minimizing the potential this industry has, and yet I believe now would be the time to tap into the opportunities you presented in the beginning.
We're at least operating at 50%. Let me award my marks in terms of organization and structures. Okay. Back in the day, it was Jua Kali. Even when we started promoting musicians, you just had to go there. It was rule of the jungle, survival for the fittest. But right now, there are a little bit of seemingly good structures and best practices. We have tried to organize the sector. A couple of people who put in time, the likes of Jingo, Mariam Dagire, Ragadi, Finamgewa, Cindy, and then people in the book sector, Charles Batambuze, Film, Tiaba. We are trying to reorganize, and we have created a platform known as the National Culture Policy. National Culture Forum, which is a policy input. So we are creating vibe and synergy around the forum to show, first of all, the practitioners and media and the stakeholders and government that I'm so going to JKH Chokubera disorganized. At least we're operating now at 60%, moving forward to hit 100. Having achieved that we have structures, now even government and other development partners have found a way of intervening into what? Into the sector. Yesterday, the executive director of Private Sector Foundation said, now that there's the intention of formalization of the sector, they are going to lobby from their development partners to see that this sector goes into what? Its rightful places. That's a nice gesture that work has been done and some results have been achieved. After that, we are going to go into now we are doing legislation, because without legislation, you won't even have those awards. Let's do legislation, make sure that they are popularized. Phase 2 will be now going into activities. Activities like awards, that because the synergy now will be there. You know who a manager is, you know who a producer is, you know who a songwriter is, you know who a DJ is. Those are people who can constitute into what? An academy, and then we have what? There was some good vibe about Janzi, but like you said, Andrew, the commitment of government. Government programs, they start out good and then they freak out.
No, it all ties down to who has spearheaded it. So if that person moves on, then surely
the person in the government or the person in the private sector,
whoever moves on.
But Janzi had given us an opportunity to solve the budgetary issue of financing the awards, and then the rest was to align the practitioners to believe into it, and then we move forward. But
so, Andrew, what lessons can we, as a people affiliated to the sector, draw from this?
From what exactly? The nomination?
The nomination and the Kwetega.
When it comes to Kwetega, the Grammys give out about 93 awards.
91?
About 91, yes. And out of the 91, the Grammy voting members, most of them are the majority are white, old, so they understand pop, they understand country, they understand rock and roll, a bit of contemporary pop, but they do not understand many other categories. So there is an open window for an independent artist, as long as you can be fronted by a voting member. I think Ugandans need to register more voting members at the moment. Are you an artist? Are you a record label? Like, I don't see why Swangs are not voting members, the record label, because I know in Uganda Black Market is a voting member, like the guy of Black Market Record is a voting member. We need more voting members, and of course we need to look beyond this category, because yes, it looks like a very open category, but it is very competitive.
Very competitive. South Africa in there.
It is a very good thing that right now they introduced a Grammy Award for spoken word, which is like a Grammy Award for poetry. We have very amazing poets, and it's a very good thing that one of the biggest poets in the world happens to be Ugandan, and he keeps coming back to Uganda. That's George the poet. His name is George Mpanga. He keeps coming to Uganda. I know he even appeared on Jacob Play One's new album. Jacob is a Ugandan rapper. So I feel like we can tap into him, since he already has the global recognition. If you collaborate with him, you can actually find your way into the best spoken word category. So there are many opportunities. There are very many categories there that most of the voters do not understand, and you could get a nomination.
Carlos, finally, you who has been here to see and realize the trends and shifts of music, what's the future of Uganda's music industry presently?
Very bright. Speaking from advocacy and lobbying point of view, once we scored the political element, as in the top-notch politics, and we saw that there was, actually, for the record, if there was no political will, I would love quit and went back into teaching. But once I saw that there was political will, I just knew that it's a matter of time just to align the what? The technocrats. And there's the Attorney General has instructed the Law Reform Committee, because everything we do is intellectual property. And the only thing that manages the products and services we put out is the copyright law. If it's not in line and updated, and if it's not popular for all of us to understand it, we're not in business.
Okay.
So if there's willingness for government to amend and popularize the copyright, then we are good to go.
All right.
Everything is embedded in that.
All right. Thank you so much, Carlos, and thank you so much for continuously pressing the right buttons so that we get that political will in the music industry, so that we can have brighter futures and brighter talents being recognized across the bar of world